I am not picking Mizzou Vanderbilt. That is not happening this week. We're not doing it.
We can't. It's awful.
I don't even know if I want to watch, if I'm being perfectly blunt. I'll watch next week when they play Georgia, but...
Well, you're calling the game, so of course you will.
Of course.
At that point, you're kind of forced.
Yeah. It's like, I got a good quote-unquote Halloween costume for you in a bit. Oh, I think we're live. We are live.
We are live.
We are live. Okay. I was like, wait a second. Okay. Well, hello and welcome. This is Halloween, or the day before Halloween. And in tune with the day, I don't have a costume, so this is about the closest I'm going to get. But yes, I'm picking the Ducks. This is the closest I'm going to get to my little Lee Corso headgear selection.
24-point favorites against Colorado.
20 favorites against Colorado, but yes, I'm picking the Ducks. I'm Zach Berman alongside Jonathan Litzkin. Oh boy, this is off. And, speaking of Lee Corso, I don't think I've ever showed this on set. This is actually got this signed a couple of years back at Game Day.
Which Game Day was it?
It was the New York City Game Day.
Okay. I think I remember that one.
I've been to 2 game days. I went to Oregon, Michigan State in 2014.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So on to the show.
And I think that just leads us right in. There's one game to talk about today, and it's Michigan State.
Yeah, this is a big weekend overall. We're going to find out a lot of things for the playoff rankings Tuesday.
The first playoff rankings do come out on Tuesday. Yeah, the hat doesn't work nearly as much on screen. So we're going to find out a lot. And I think we start with the elephant in the room, or the Wolverine in the room, or the Spartan in the room. Number 6, Michigan, at number 8, Michigan State. Did you see this being an unbeaten top 10 game at the start of the year?
Considering I picked Michigan State to, I think, win 4 games, I did not. I thought this was going to be one of the worst teams in the Big Ten. I didn't see Mel Tucker turning this around in year 2 at all. And that's not to say I didn't believe in him. It's just they were in such a bad spot when Mark D'Antonio left that it almost seemed inevitable that they were going to have another bad year. But you know what? They had a weak schedule, it turned out. They took advantage of that, and here they are sitting at 8-0 or 7-7. I apologize for that, but
Tuck's coming.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at the 2 matchups today between the quarterbacks and the running backs, and Kenneth Walker for Michigan State. What a revelation he has been.
Yeah,
Wake Forest.
Mm-hmm. He's in the Heisman conversation right now.
Yeah, he is. I mean, I didn't really know his name coming in, to be perfectly honest with you.
No, and what's crazy is as wide open as the Heisman race is today, Kenneth Walker can put himself right into the picture and maybe even make himself the favorite today with a big game.
No, I am still here. My computer is dying. I got to take care of that. But on the other side is Blake Corum for Michigan, and he has really taken the spot that Zach Charbonnet left behind when he transferred to UCLA.
Yeah, Michigan's really got they go to more of a 2-headed monster running back with Blake Corum and Hassan Haskins, and they run the ball really efficiently. Both of them have had outstanding years. Michigan State fans fight about Corum and Walker all the time on Twitter, and honestly, they're both 2 of the best running backs, not only in the conference but in the country. I think both of them need to have fantastic games for either side to win today, and that's an interesting storyline to follow.
Now, I am picking the Michigan State Wolverines. I am picking them to win straight up. I'm not picking this game against the spread. I'm still, and maybe this is the week I am proven wrong. I still don't like Harbaugh in these big games. But you have Michigan.
I don't either. I think he's 2-10, I want to say, against top 10 teams. I mean, I may have that wrong, but I know he's never won a top 10 game on the road, and that's what he's playing in today. I think this Michigan team is just the better football team. They're more talented. I like Harbaugh, even though I know he has critics, and I think some of them could be fair. Like my critique of Harbaugh has been like I don't expect him to beat Ohio State. He has to beat them eventually, right? But Ohio State's in the best run in their program history right now, and that's an unrealistic expectation, at least the past couple years. But I think Michigan State is an absolute must win for him today. I don't think
I think so
Michigan
too.
will ever
But
fire him, but it feels like if he wants that program to take the next step to be
you
at
have to
that
win.
height that we all know they've been at before, winning this game today is essential, and that's one of the reasons I'm taking Michigan.
Well, I'm picking Michigan State because of two things. One, Harbaugh's inability to win these top 10 games on the road. And the second one, I think Michigan State has the advantage at quarterback with Peyton Thorne, who, by the way, he is very good.
Yeah, you mentioned Peyton Thorne. He's had a very good year, throwing for 15 touchdowns in 7 games, and albeit he hasn't had to do anything spectacular because of how good Kenneth Walker's been. But, he's done a good job getting the ball to their playmakers outside, and Michigan State has some. I think on the other side, I wonder how much we see J.J. McCarthy today for Michigan. He's an Illinois kid, finished up his high school career at IMG, and there's pretty much a consensus among Michigan and college football fans that by playing Cade McNamara and not J.J. McCarthy, you're somewhat limiting the playbook. Cade McNamara has now played in 10 career games. He's thrown 11 touchdowns, 1 pick in those 10 career games. It actually might be 10 touchdowns in 11 career games. He's efficient. He takes care of the ball, but it feels like
He's a
they're
game
missing an
manager.
explosive element without J.J. McCarthy on the field.
He's a game manager. That's what he is.
Yeah, and I don't think Michigan right now wants to be this explosive team. They've won their best years under Harbaugh have been really good running game manager, quarterback. And I think this offense is his best offense at Michigan, but it still feels like they're missing an element that makes them a playoff contender.
Right. So, on that note, we had talked about how there were 2 Big Ten elimination games today. Really, now there's only one because one of the teams decided to eliminate themselves. I am surprised, but at the same time, not exactly, that Penn State happened to be the fraudulent team of the bunch.
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't even get to do a show last Sunday. They lost to Illinois in 9 overtimes. Like, seriously. With Sean Clifford, with their offense at full strength, at home.
So 2 years ago, and I mentioned this on the show last Saturday. Two years ago, we saw a Wisconsin team the week before Ohio State lose to Illinois, and that was an undefeated Wisconsin team. Now you kind of see a similar situation here, where you have a Penn State team that still has playoff aspirations, that still has Big Ten title hopes, kind of throw those all down the drain with a loss to Illinois. Penn State in the past under James Franklin has kind of tended to play down to competition or play to the level of competition, no matter whether that's down or up. And I think we're going to see the same today. I think this Penn State team, their performance last week is not indicative of who they really are. I still think they're a good football team
Really?
that can beat you up front, that's going to try to get the ball to Dotson in space. I still don't 100% buy Ohio State. They haven't beaten anyone real this year. Their one loss came against Oregon at home. They kind of, at the beginning of the year, played the team's level of competition. For God's sake, Berman, they almost lost to a Tulsa team that lost a one-loss Navy team last night.
That's true. That is true. That is true.
I still don't 100% buy this team. They blew out Indiana. They blew out Rutgers. Today is a show-me game for Ohio State.
And what do they think? What do I think they show me? I think that Ohio State wins big. I don't think they just win. I think they cover as well. So I'm not buying Penn State. I think last season it was a fluke for the Nittany Lions. I also think that last week was a gut punch for the Nittany Lions. I'm not sure if they recover this week. I think Ohio State covers the 19.5.
Interesting. I actually took the other side of the line. So, but I will mention, I think Ohio State come Tuesday for the playoff rankings could be the most interesting team in the top 10 because there are some people that will tell you eye test wise they look like the second best team in the country besides Georgia right now. But resume wise, they lost to Oregon, so should they be below Oregon? That's a big question that we haven't had answered yet by the playoff committee. And I will say this: last year, every single week, even though people kind of knew Florida was better than Texas A&M, Texas A&M beat them last year, and so Texas A&M was ahead of them in every single playoff ranking, and that didn't change. So you talk about an example of this situation. There's your example. So if the committee is true to their word and stick to the criteria that they've laid out for us last year, Oregon should be ahead of Ohio State no matter the results today.
That's a fair statement. I think the most interesting team in the playoff conversation right now is Tulane, or the team that Tulane is playing. What am I saying this morning? Cincinnati. Tulane is 1-6, but actually, I'll keep it on Tulane in a bit. I think Cincinnati is obviously going to roll here this morning.
Mm-hmm.
But I had this whole great statement over how Tulane had played Oklahoma well and then has gotten crushed every week after. Let's move on to Oklahoma because I had this whole cool segue planned out and I just completely botched it. Oklahoma almost lost to Kansas last week.
Yeah, that was bad.
Absolutely pathetic. They should have lost the game. They're lucky they didn't.
If it wasn't for some late game Caleb Williams heroics, this game we have a different story to talk about here.
We absolutely do. And Oklahoma is Texas Tech. I think they're going to win. I don't think Oklahoma deserves to be in the playoff conversation right now.
I think they do just because they're in position to be an undefeated Power 5 champ. And the Big 12 is a decent league this year.
Would you put Oklahoma in over, say, an undefeated Wake Forest if it comes down to those two?
Yeah, I would. Oklahoma. If Oklahoma is undefeated at the end of the regular season, I think we have nothing. If Oklahoma is undefeated through a conference championship game, I don't think we have any discussion with them. I think they're in because at that point they will have beaten Texas, who albeit their record's not that good, but I think people still think they're better than their record. They would have beaten Baylor, who is a ranked team currently. They would have beaten Oklahoma State, who was a top 10 team until last week, and then they would have beaten Iowa State, who is playing really good, their best football right now, and is only a 2-loss team and is ranked. So you have all of that combined with they would have had to beaten one of those three teams twice. So I think at the end of the day, if Oklahoma is an undefeated Power 5 champ, we're not going to have a discussion with them. They're going to be in.
That's a fair statement.
Now, I will say this. Lincoln Riley has never finished a season undefeated at Oklahoma going into the playoff. So I do think they lose one of these three upcoming games to Baylor, Iowa State, or Oklahoma State. I think they'll end up winning the conference, but I do think they lose a game in the regular season at some point.
If they lose a game in the regular season, they're not making the playoff. No,
this kind of reminds me of 2018 Ohio State, where like they just didn't have the eye test to get them into the playoff with one loss, even as a conference champion.
No, I'm not buying Oklahoma this year. I'm not buying anybody in the Big 10 or the Big 12 this year. Big 10, yes, I'm buying the winner of Michigan State, because I'm not sold on Ohio State, even though I think Ohio State wins big this week. Now, who am I sold on? That's a better question. I'm still sold on Georgia. I'm still sold on Georgia.
Everyone is. And
I think everybody is. I think they roll easily in the world's largest cocktail party, defeating the Florida Gators.
Yeah, the 14-point spread almost like confused me because Florida, even with Anthony Richardson at quarterback, is miles worse than Georgia. This is a Georgia team that, as we know, has pretty much the best defense in the playoff era of college football. So, like, they should roll today, and this is really their last big game, I'd say, even though Florida's not ranked, because after this, they're going to get a bunch of weaker SEC East opponents and Georgia Tech before Alabama. My question with them is, where is JT Daniels been? I know he's hurt, but like, what's his status? Because you know he's the best quarterback on the roster, and you'd think they want him playing in the SEC championship in the playoff. So, are you going to get him in there to get reps before that? And what's his status? How serious is his injury? I don't understand what's going on with that. And
The
then
number
also,
one team in the land is a quarterback controversy. You love to see it.
and then obviously the other ones, where's George Pickens? Where's Eric Gilbert? I know Eric Gilbert's kind of dealing with the personal issues still, but George Pickens is supposed to be coming back from a torn ACL. And that'll be just soon enough, you would think.
That would be very Mizzou if George Pickens were to wait until the Mizzou game to come back.
Yeah. And then, you mentioned the number one team in the quarterback, or the number one team in the land having a controversy at quarterback. That's how good they are. That they can roll out pretty much any quarterback in any given week and beat you by 30.
Stetson Bennett's not as bad as people make him out to be.
No, he actually has gotten a lot better. I'm impressed with him.
My next pick is a school that does not have a quarterback controversy. And yet I am picking Ole Miss to be upset by Auburn.
I agree with you on this one, actually. I really think Auburn's going to win today.
Auburn's defense, when they show up, they're great. And that's one of the toughest places in the land to play. In the Plains, in prime time, at home. I think Ole Miss is a dud of a game tonight, and that's why I'm picking the Tigers to pull the upset. First big ranked win for Brian Harsin, who has impressed me as the head coach of the Auburn Tigers.
Yeah, he's had an impressive season. A lot of people, including myself, didn't think that whiteout game would be close because I thought it was going to be a major coaching mismatch. They did. They stayed in it till the end, had a chance to win it.
You thought it was a coaching mismatch? I think James Franklin's the most overrated coach in the country. So make of that what you will.
I would disagree with you.
Who do you think is?
Well, I mean, if you think James Franklin's overrated, then you have to think Harbaugh is overrated too. Because
I do,
Okay.
but I think Harbaugh gets about the level of recognition he deserves.
That's fair. But
Franklin has never been able to win the big game, and he loses games that he absolutely shouldn't lose.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that's true. He's won multiple New Year's Six Bowls at Penn State. He's won a Big Ten championship. He's beaten Ohio State, which Jim Harbaugh can't say. And Ohio State hasn't lost the conference game in since 2018. So I think James Franklin is a good coach. He can recruit if anything. I mean, the guy won at Vanderbilt. So yeah, sure. Does Penn State tend to play to a level of competition sometimes?
It should have been a playoff team multiple years, man.
But I think they kind of got jobbed in 2017, and that cost them a playoff appearance.
I think they should have been a playoff team, and they blew the game against Ohio State a couple years back with JT Barrett, and they lost to Michigan State.
That Michigan State game wasn't their fault, though.
That's fair.
Like as much as you're right. Like they needed to win that game. If they won that game, they were in the playoff probably at 11-1 or whatever it was, 12-1 as a conference champion. They were so talented that year. They blew the game against Ohio State, which if they win, they go to the playoff. But then the next week they have to go to Michigan State, and a monsoon hits like middle of the game, and they're on rain delay for like 5 hours. And if that doesn't happen, they win the game and probably go to the playoff.
That's fair, but I still think they blew that game. I'm picking
They did.
Texas to upset Baylor this week. What are your thoughts on that?
As a college football fan, I kind of want Baylor to win just because they're a one-loss team, and I think it would keep the Big 12 race really interesting. Especially considering there's 3 Big 12 teams outside of Oklahoma that have one loss in the conference right now. So I actually think Baylor wins today. I think Sark again struggles, and
I think Texas is
they
so much
unravel late.
better than what they're made out to be. I don't think their record shows what kind of a team they are.
No, I agree with you, and their problems start on the defensive side of the ball. I think it's too early to judge Sark. He's coached 7 games at Texas. I still think the hire is a home run. And, they're having problems in year one on the side of the
Most
ball.
coaches have problems in year one.
So, I said this last night to a buddy. If people like giving coaches time to get their recruits in, I think really if you really believe in your class, you should have your guys playing in year 2 because at that point you have one class in. Even if they're young, I think some of them need to be playing. Texas people will argue, well, Sark still has 5 stars. He still has 4 stars on the roster. Yeah, but they're not necessarily scheme fits. They're not his guys that he recruited to play his scheme. So that's where they could struggle, and especially on the defensive side of the ball that he doesn't coach, that's where they could especially struggle.
That's fair. Moving on, another spread pick. I got Notre Dame covering the 3.5 against North Carolina.
Yeah, this one kind of feels like Notre Dame is just the better team. Like, I think UNC could score some points, but, with Mac Brown, that like UNC almost kind of seems too cool right now. Like,
what a disaster of a season for UNC.
This was supposed to be the turning point. They win, I think, 9 games last year. They lose 3. They go 9-3. They almost beat Texas A&M in the Orange Bowl without half their offensive starters. And we look at them, they're like, oh, this could be a year they turn the corner. And no, Sam Howell has been a disaster. Josh Downs has had a really good year for them, but
that's true. But
they can't. They struggle to get stops. They lost to Florida State for the 2nd straight year just a couple weeks ago. This has just been a disaster for Mac Brown. And you know what? Like, there's no pressure on them. Maybe they go out and win this game and turn things around in the second half, but I don't see it.
Well, there's all the pressure in the world on Notre Dame. And let me be frank, Notre Dame is still in the playoff conversation considering who their loss was to.
I don't think they're in the playoff conversation, but I think they're going to go 11-1 and play in the year 6.
Which, for this Notre Dame team that I don't think is very good,
right,
that is a phenomenal accomplishment.
That's a successful season for Brian Kelly. I said at the beginning of the season, this isn't a Notre Dame team that goes to the playoff. They've lost a ton of guys from last year. They're young on the offensive line, which Notre Dame having even an average offensive line is so uncharacteristic. And even with all those flaws, even with all those losses, they still could win 11 regular season games.
Which would be just, like I said, I think Brian Kelly is the most underrated coach in America.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's a testament to how good of a coach Brian Kelly is.
Moving on, another spread pick. I'm surprised that the Kentucky-Mississippi State spread is just 1.
Yeah.
Much less that Mississippi State is favored.
I picked this game too.
Which is why I'm picking Kentucky to cover the plus 1.5 now. It was 1 when I put it down in the script. It's now plus 1.5.
So the only reason this spread is what it is because Mark Stoops, I don't think, has ever beaten Mississippi State.
What does Vegas know that we don't?
Like, I think they know what we just said is that Mississippi State is at home, and they've been pretty good at home this year. And Mark Stoops has never beaten Mississippi State.
That's fair.
Now, I think this is kind of one where you just you throw out the what does Vegas know factor. This is a major coaching mismatch. Mike Leach is not built to win in the SEC. That's not his style. And Mississippi State, they saw what LSU did. They saw what Alabama did last year. And they're like, we need to go out and hire an offensive coach to compete with these guys. That's two outliers out of the last decade that have been offensive firepowers in the SEC. You still need defense to win the conference. I firmly believe that. And I think Mississippi State made a mistake in hiring him.
Oh, no, I absolutely agree. They should have never hired Mike Leach. I think Mike Leach actually, believe it or not, winds up back at Washington State after the end of the season.
You know, if the school wants him back, I'm sure he would end up going back there. But, you know, I think the Washington State job could go to a offensive coordinator at a school you like, Berman.
Oregon?
Yeah, Joe Moorhead.
Ooh, that would be it. I think if James Franklin leaves Penn State, I think Joe Moorhead goes back to Penn State.
You know, I was talking about that with a friend last night, and I think that's probably the only coordinator in the country right now that Penn State would consider, just because of the background ties and what he did there. Other than that, if Franklin leaves, I think Penn State probably considers Moorhead and then a bunch of different head coaches.
Do you think Luke Fickell would leave Cincinnati for Penn State?
I think he absolutely would. I don't think Luke Fickell is necessarily a fit at USC, but he would be at Penn State.
Yeah, I feel that definitely more so USC than or Penn State than USC. All right, let's go through these rest of these ranked games quick. Pittsburgh and Miami. Does Pittsburgh have a hangover after defeating Clemson? No.
I think they do, but I don't think it's going to be enough to win. I think this is going to be one of those games where Miami's in it late and something weird happens and you're like, oh, of course this happens to Miami.
I think Pittsburgh wins close. Iowa and Wisconsin. Does Iowa lose again? They might.
So this spread being a 3, Wisconsin being favored in this game confuses me because not only is Wisconsin how is Wisconsin going to score in this game?
They're not.
And they turn the ball over a ton. So that plays right into Iowa's narrative. So I think Iowa's going to win this game. I don't care that Wisconsin's favorite. I didn't pick the game.
I didn't pick the game either
because I was too scared. Something weird could happen. I'll take Iowa though.
Iowa State and West Virginia. This feels like a trap game for the Cyclones after their big win last week.
You know, it doesn't for me. I know there's the whole hangover game effect, but Matt Campbell's going to have his guys ready. Iowa State's starting to play their best football in the season, which they did last year in the second half. This is potentially a team that could sneak up against Oklahoma late in the season. I think they roll today.
Colorado and Oregon. I think the Ducks are going to roll.
Oregon's got Joe Moorhead back on the sideline. Colorado's the second worst team in the Pac-12 besides Arizona. Oregon will roll today. Nothing else needs to be said.
Duke and Wake Forest.
Wake Forest is going to keep their undefeated streak alive today. They're going to go to 8-0, and then I believe they might have one more cupcake game almost before their tough stretch at the end of the season. Just for the people that don't know, Wake Forest's last 3 games of the season are Clemson, NC State, and Boston College.
Can KU bring the same thunder they brought to Oklahoma against Oklahoma State?
I don't believe so. Oklahoma State rolls today, goes to 7-1.
SMU and Houston.
Really good game. I think the winner of this is going to probably end up playing in the American Championship against Cincinnati. I like Houston at home today. I know SMU is playing great football, but I like Houston.
SMU and Houston, the 10-year anniversary of College Game Day in Houston when Lee Corso dropped an F-bomb.
That's right.
That was 10 years ago. Can you believe that?
Crazy.
UVA and BYU. That's a fun little game there.
Yeah, I think winner of this is probably ranked in the playoff poll next week. Losers probably not. BYU undefeated against Pac-12 teams this year. This was a team we thought we were going to have to watch for late in the season. Ended up not being the case, but I'll take the Cougars today.
Fresno State, San Diego State. That's an interesting game. A good late-night game.
Yeah, it is. To pair that with Virginia, BYU, and also UCLA, Utah late is a fun, really late West Coast slate. San Diego State's looking to keep their undefeated season alive. With Cincinnati being as good as they are, they're not playing a New Year's Six bowl. So they're just playing to stay undefeated. And frankly, I think San Diego State's the better team.
I think San Diego State's a better team. Okay. Unfortunately, my new Group of five darlings, the Roadrunners of UTSA, are off this week. Oh, you were quick. So the Roadrunners are not playing this week. I actually think the Roadrunners might get College Game Day next week.
Yeah, I was gonna say they have a big one next week against UTEP.
Oh my God!
And like
What a job!
looking at the slate next week, it's not like as bad as week 8 is, or certainly not a bad slate. I just don't think they have anywhere else to go, possibly.
Yeah, where is Game Day gonna? I mean, maybe College Station.
So I think you have a couple interesting ones next week. You have Ohio State that's playing on the road, Oregon's playing on the road, Michigan State's playing on the road. That could be a major hangover game if Michigan State wins today, by the way. They're playing at Purdue next week. Wake Forest is playing on the road. I think if Auburn wins today, they could go to College Station next week. But really, they don't have a ton of games with like playoff impact next week. So I think UTSA could be the one.
Week 11, where do you think they go?
Well, I think it's
Oklahoma Baylor looks like the front runner right now.
Yeah, but if man,
A&M Ole Miss. Oh, they haven't been to Oxford in a long time.
Yeah, that could be an interesting one. Yeah, I'm kind of just scrolling through this. Baylor looks like the one possibly right now.
But this is also a nothing burger of a week.
Week 11?
Week 12, you have to go to Cincinnati. That's where you have to go.
Yeah, I think they've been saving Cincinnati for that one.
Has Game Day ever been to Cincinnati? I don't think they have.
So here's the one that kind of is confusing, is dangerous to Cincinnati. If Michigan State wins this week, they're going to be undefeated against Ohio State in the shoe week 12.
And Game Day hasn't gone to Ohio State yet.
Unless of course they lose to Purdue next week, which I don't know why I said they're going to. It's very possible they do. So, but that could be the one that endangers Cincinnati Game Day.
It better not. It better not. We want a Cincinnati Game Day. Week 13. I mean, it's got to be Ohio State, Michigan. No,
if Big Noon goes there, I doubt it. I think what they're going to end up doing is, if Auburn wins today, Auburn Bama is going to be, because if Auburn wins today and beats A&M, Auburn Bama is going to be for the SEC West.
And they've also been saving Alabama.
Yeah, exactly.
So since he was at Game Day at UCF in 2018, they've never been to Cincinnati.
Yeah, but like since he was good that year, but not like even close to where they are now. And that was more of a game day to get UCF in, because UCF was in the middle of their 20-plus undefeated streak in the regular season.
Yeah, I think rivalry week is shaping up to be great. Alabama-Auburn should be a ranked game. Oklahoma State should be a ranked game. The Civil War might wind up being a ranked game.
The Civil War could end up being for a division title.
Yeah. Penn State, Michigan State will probably be ranked. Hold on. Ohio State, Michigan. Well, we already know. We're getting into there. It's a good week of football. That is a really good week of football.
Yeah, it is.
You got anything else? Because honestly, I want to start prepping for this Michigan State game.
Dude, we're 2 hours away from it starting, and like I feel like it should be starting right now. Like this is if Jim Harbaugh wins this game, it'll be the biggest win of his career, and you won't be able to take that away from him.
No, you won't. Gosh, I have not been this excited for a game in a long time. Is Michigan State legit? Is Michigan legit? It's two teams that were not expected to be here.
We're gonna find out. This is identity day in the Big Ten. We're gonna find out a lot about 3 different teams today, I think.
Man, This is why college football is the best. Hopefully it lives up because every week has had at least one awesome game. Wonder if we get more than one this week.
And for the loser of Michigan State, basketball starts in 10 days. So
Michigan State's basketball team isn't great this year, are they?
no, but these is like the kind of teams that like Izzo always wins with. Like teams that are like Izzo will use this like to find a way to motivate his team because like they're picked to finish like I think 5th or 6th in the conference.
I mean, Michigan's the best team in the country as far as I'm concerned for basketball.
Oh, for basketball, yeah. Like I know we're gonna get into that soon once basketball actually gets going, but yeah, Michigan is, in my opinion, the best basketball team in the country.
We'll get into that once we start talking basketball because uNIVERSITY is not limited to football.
It better not be.
It isn't. That's why I brought you in.
College basketball is awesome.
I brought you in because this is going to be a basketball show come a few months from now.
Let's go, baby.
And we might even start, once things get down towards Thanksgiving, doing half-hour college football, half-hour basketball.
Yeah, I mean, why not, man? Like, Champions Classic is literally a week from Tuesday, so.
Okay, one last question. It is Halloween. Who can guess my favorite Halloween candy? I know, Henry, you brought this up, and I'm not going to give the answer.
Oh, man. What would Berman's favorite Halloween candy be?
Man. Just thinking about it, I want to go out and get one because I'm going to be home facilitating a trick-or-treat duty for tomorrow.
Man, I have a guess, but I don't know. I'm not sure it's going to be right. I'm going to go Snickers.
No, you're wrong. Good guess, but you're wrong. So if you can guess, I'm not a Twix kind of guy. I do like Twix. It is not my favorite, so keep guessing. DM me if you come up with the answer.
Is it chocolate? At least give us that.
It is chocolate.
Okay.
I'm not a psychopath. It is chocolate.
Good. I didn't think you were.
But if anybody guesses it, I will eat one on tomorrow morning's show. Deal?
Like that.
Yeah. All right. Until then, Michigan State's kicking off in less than 2 hours. Enjoy your football Saturday. And as always, like, subscribe, download the app. We got some big things coming in the next few weeks. We'll see you later.